This is the Apparelist Podcast, designed to bring you real-life conversation about high-level topics relevant to the decorated apparel community.
What is up, Apparelist people? We are recording this special episode of the podcast on site at Printing United Expo 2023, taking place in Atlanta. I'm looking out over the crowd here at Future State Hub, and the energy level is really high. Attendees are buzzing about the latest equipment, technologies that are featured on the show floor. Can't wait to get their hands on the newest machine so they can get started growing their shops. And that's why we're here today recording this podcast, because what better place to talk about Convergence than on site at such an expansive display of printing technologies. The opportunities to expand into other areas of printing beyond apparel decoration are almost endless. So joining me today for the podcast is Kahle. He's the Chief Revenue Officer of Visual Marking Systems. Eric, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, so let's just kick things off with, why don't you kind of give us a background of your experience in the industry, where you're at, and, just kind of who you are.
Yeah. So we have two different organizations, one being a contract decorator on the apparel side, but we really originate in the label overlay and wide format graphics industry. So myself, I've been back in the business for about 8 years now, third generation. So I have a great opportunity to come in and have some leadership opportunity. But I mean, I've been since child labor was basically getting taken advantage with me, back when I was 10. So I've really been in the industry my entire life, scrubbing the floors when I was 16, and so learned a lot. Moved myself into getting certified in PDAA master certification.
Nice.
And really leaned into that for a while. I left the industry. Finished my degree, went into ops and logistics, and came back in. So it's been a really fun experience. About 5 years ago, we started Badline, which is our contract decorator business, decoration business rather. We're doing screen print, embroidery, heat transfer, DTG, digital on demand. So kind of the whole gamut of decoration that awesome. Way.
And now you can add to your resume, board member for Printing United Alliance.
Yeah, I got roped into that one too. So
someone like you who has a lot of experience in different platforms is definitely a valuable voice for that. So thanks for being a part of that.
Yeah, it's fun. It's an opportunity to contribute. So
absolutely. And that's kind of a huge thing. That's why we love this industry so much, is because rather than an industry, it's more of a community. And I love that.
Yeah.
But having gotten a little sidetracked there for a second, what we really want to talk about today is this topic of convergence. And so everyone keeps throwing around this term convergence, right? Let's define that. What does convergence mean to you? What do you think it means to the industry?
I think the way to answer that is what is it serving? Why is there this movement in the industry? And ultimately, when you take a look at the customer personas that we're trying to grab, these are people that are looking for turnkey solutions, and they have a large variety of print buy, and so ultimately they want to have as single source as possible, without necessarily putting all their eggs in one basket. Understanding, do we have a partner that can really be a partner in print, not just a commodity supplier? So a lot of us have started in whatever our discipline might be. But ultimately, the discussions that we have with the market ends up saying, we do have the ability, we do have a place to go ahead and sell. We might be doing fleet graphics, but we need to get into the windows, walls, and floors. Mm-hmm. Or, if we're doing fleet, guess what? Every single fleet has apparel needs and promo needs. And so we're seeing a lot of it across the industry. And at the end of the day, it's, trying not to say no to your customers, but there's some CapEx involved. So there's a little bit of some strategic decision making that has to occur, but at the end of the day, to compete with some of the larger players in the market, they have a little bit more capital to be able to make these strides. And I think what's awesome about our industry is there's some level entry ways to get into these different markets. So Convergence is all about trying to be that turnkey provider. You might not provide everything from mailing to apparel to POP, but if you can be able to utilize your equipment for higher utilization across multiple markets, that's what Convergence is all about.
Awesome. Can you kind of give some examples from within your own businesses of what Convergence looks like for you guys as just examples for other people.
Yeah, absolutely. The easiest one is to talk about the development of our contract decoration business. We were never in apparel. My grandfather actually said he'll never print on a shirt. My father said he'll never print on a shirt. So anyways, now we're printing on shirts. But it was trying to look at a way to grow, knowing that we had a lot of buy opportunity from our existing clients, and we were trying to figure, so what's the next market to emerge in?
Okay.
And we actually were looking at two different things. Do we want to go into the apparel market, or do we want to go into dye sub, soft signage and trade show?
Mm-hmm.
And we realized we're printers and we're not riggers, and we don't know necessarily how to do the full display side of things. And we didn't really have necessarily a lot of demand for that trade show side. So we took a look at it, and we decided to go the CapEx route on apparel. Bought a couple carousels, bought an embroidery company to be able to offer that full gamut. So it was realizing that we needed to grow, and growth is either going to be organic or through acquisition, and or also investment. And so we said, hey, we think we can go after providing print in the apparel product sector to the same people that are buying from us today. So we, like I said, it was only 5 years ago. It was the first time we ever printed on a shirt. But it was just trying to move into another market and grab more buy.
Absolutely. What would you say were kind of the big pain points as you've grown into this segment of the industry?
That we were very wrong. We thought that there was going to be a lot of synergy that direction, but with some of the organizations that we're working with are quite large, and so they already have great programs put in place. So while we might have a good relationship with those marketing teams, we realized that it wasn't necessarily going to be an easy code to crack. We want to focus on corporate apparel. We find that to be a pretty profitable sale. But at the end of the day, we realized that more our middle market size companies were going to be a better opportunity to sell into than necessarily the demand that and the service need that some of the larger organizations that we already had as customers were going to demand. And then on top of that too, we're selling all B2B and didn't really know the wholesale market. But at the end of the day, utilization of your equipment is kind of what you're up against as a business owner. You got to keep the presses spinning.
Yep.
You got to keep the needles moving. So in order to do that, we started making relationships with some marketing firms to be able to move more on the contract side. So we didn't necessarily know what we were getting into in terms of how to sell the product and who were actually eligible clients. And so we kind of learned that over the first year or two and really fell into the role of being a contract decorator. We didn't even know we were going to be a contract decorator. We were just going to print. We were going to sell direct to end user. But at the end of the day, utilization at 25% of your equipment is not acceptable to your investor.
Right.
And so you got to figure out a way to get more shirts moving on a daily basis.
It's not just about learning the technology. You got to learn the business side of it too.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
So why do you personally feel this is a trend that is not going away?
I think it's a few things. One is going to be that the platforms that are being created, especially in the digital technology, especially on wide format, are so applicable to all these different markets. So with the large CapEx involved, people are looking at ways of trying to sell more product through that same piece of equipment and enter new markets. And also, if you take a look at just trend of what some of the organizations that have been really successful in Convergence is going into new market and either trying to do that through an acquisition that's going to be a stock, asset purchase, or the other side is customer list purchase.
Sure. And
what I think what we're really seeing is that people are trying to find ways to expand and diversify. A lot of the people that I've known for a long time in the industry have been really steadfast in trying to find ways to grow their business that if they've realized they've reached a ceiling. And so in order to compete, knowing that there's these larger players that are trying to be fully turnkey, all the smaller players are starting to say, hang on, we need to go look at entry-level wide format.
Yeah.
We should take a look at label. Maybe packaging is the right application for us, especially in the apparel world. Packaging is a great fit from a kitting standpoint.
Yep.
And I just think we haven't seen any slowdown of it, and we just hear people continuously talking about, and I hear peers continuously talking about, how do we reinvent ourselves to be able to expand revenue in new places.
I feel like that was really accelerated from the pandemic. Like, not to beleaguer a point here, but it's like, I feel like it was starting and then the pandemic just like skyrocketed that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got to take a look too at markets that crashed in print. Marketing budgets were really cut back.
Right.
And it depends on what you're selling. But if you were selling in an event and trade, you were kind of SOL.
Yep.
That's what it came down to. So, can you move into a packaging marketplace, or can you move into a label marketplace where marketing budget is not as impactful on that buy? It's a commodity that there's still a demand for. They still got to ship their product. They can't ship their product without label. There's a different need.
Right. You've kind of already said it, but there are shops that have yet to truly make the leap, to truly diversify and explore this concept of convergence. What would you say to those shops?
I would say do your research. I would say don't be afraid of going into a new market.
Sure.
But I think the biggest thing to do, and this is what I talked to Dan Marks about, is building your personas. Understanding going into a new market, who is buying that product, and then also take a look at what you know how to do. What's awesome about print is there's a lot of very talented, very skillful people.
Right.
And a lot of very much so entrepreneurial spirit across the entire industry. But just like I said, we were wrong when we started Bad Lime and not necessarily knowing who we were going to sell to or who we were going to have success selling to. Spend a little bit of time talking to other people in the market, reach out to peers. That's one thing that the industry is great for. It's a pretty open door industry. That's how we are. Anybody that wants to come and walk through the shop, you're open. We're open anytime. And there's a lot of people that are also that same way. So don't be afraid to reach out to suppliers, competitors. Ask your customers what they're buying, what that sales cycle looks like for them. Build yourself a business plan, build yourself a marketing plan, and then start taking a look at what's the right market for you, what's the right fit. Yeah. But I wouldn't be afraid of it. Just spend some time talking to your friends.
I'm curious because you said you did some things wrong. There were challenges, right? Any horror stories you would care to share with us? Funny stories, even?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know if anything's necessarily coming to mind right now. We really dove into music industry a lot.
Oh, nice.
And we found that it was a very, very, very competitive market.
Yeah.
And that we could add a little bit more profitability to go towards more of the corporate side. And a little bit saturated that way too. So,
sure.
I think I can't necessarily remember right now off the top of my head of a specific horror story, but it was a journey trying to figure out where our place was. And now we've created some pretty awesome relationships. Actually, I'll say this. So, you move into a new market and you have to find skilled individuals to help you run your business and help you do what you got to do. To do that, we were bringing in some people that were experienced that maybe brought some bad habits with them. We have some really, really awesome printers and embroidery operators and seamstress. But, we definitely had a little bit of turnover at first of people that didn't fit the culture. And with trying to sound as professional as possible without going into too much details, the skilled individuals with the passive aggressive behaviors and trying to work through that, and you don't know anything because you're new to this industry and I've been printing for 35 years. Well, we have a little bit of success in running a business, so we're trying to implement a lean culture into somebody that knows everything. That was tough. That was tough.
Company culture could be like a whole other topic because that is huge. Well, not to go down a path, but we hear that a lot. Staffing continues to be maybe not as bad as last year, but but that a lot of that it comes down to company culture and building a good company culture. So that's very interesting.
Yeah. Well, and especially in apparel, right? Because it is a garage shop, cottage industry, and it's a hobby industry. So trying to fit somebody into our mold is not necessarily easy coming out of that market, right? Because we are a very clean environment. We are a lean enterprise. We're ISO certified, so we document every single standard work procedure that we can possibly do to have that consistency and cross training. And bringing somebody out of a cottage industry that loves just listening to music and printing shirts, doesn't necessarily fit that mold. You know, but at the same time, there's a lot. You're still offering a lot of opportunity. So it's just getting people to be like-minded, sharing your strategic goals, publishing your financials to your staff, and being as transparent as possible, and getting their buy-in to they're the ones leading the company. They're the ones that are actually going to be able to help you innovate. That's it. It's very, very, very important. And it's not about ping pong tables and free food to everybody. It's about having everybody being on a common plane, trying to accomplish the same goals, and of course having fun while you're doing it. There's a reason for being an entrepreneur, and that is to have some fun while you're doing it.
Totally. And this is a great industry to have some fun, because there's a lot of creativity. I mean, I don't have to say that to you, but
no, very much so.
All right. This is getting back to the topic of convergence and diversification. So you have talked about, okay, do your research, look and see what opportunities there are. Bottom line, one piece of advice that you ultimately would give somebody who is maybe experiencing really rapid growth and they're just not really sure what the next path is, or if it's even smart growth. What is your advice?
Don't be afraid to say no. Really protect the integrity of what you're trying to accomplish. You want to cast a wide net, but ultimately you have a niche that you're going to be able to service. And just because you and I are both apparel printers, your niche can be completely different than mine. And so learn where your margins are at, and don't be afraid to say no if it doesn't fit what's going to make you successful, and most importantly, what's going to help you keep food on the table of all your employees. Nice. It's tough. Telling somebody no, I can't take your order when you're a startup. It's tough, but you do have to concentrate on the integrity of what you're trying to build.
Right. Well, and I feel like that's kind of a balance, because when you are experiencing rapid growth and you are going through this diversification, I mean, it sort of stems from trying to say yes to different things. So it can be tough to find that line.
100%.
Like establishing
100%.
it.
Yeah, especially as you're emerging, right? Like now that I've been doing it for 5 years, I know what the red flags are. So it's and it's not me. Our staff knows what the red flags are, and you're gonna get burned. It's gonna happen as you try to learn and try to expand, but don't be afraid to protect, again, the integrity of what you're trying to build, and make sure your team knows that. Make sure your team knows where do you fit in the market, what product are you good at, and what product are you not good at. And don't be afraid to tell the customer, listen, I'm decorating apparel, but I'm sourcing your promo. However, you're getting a turnkey solution, and I'm going to be very transparent with you of what you're getting when you work with us. And if that doesn't work for you, then respectfully, I understand what your goals are, and this is what I can help you with.
And stick to that. Commit to it. Right. Eric, we're just about out of time, but one last thing I like to do. Where can people find you? Where can people connect with you?
My LinkedIn is probably the easiest way for people to reach out to me. Or vmsinc.com, badlime.com, and feel free to reach out any opportunities you have or any guidance you'd like. Or also, I believe you can find me on Printing United's website as well, on the board there.
On the board, several interviews. Hop on any of our publications. You can probably find a video interview with Eric. And for those of you who are looking for Eric on LinkedIn, it's ERIC, no H, no K, and then KAHLE. So find him on LinkedIn, get connected, ping him for advice. I'm just going to volunteer you.
Oh, absolutely. Open door. Absolutely.
Awesome. And then for those of you who are interested, and if you don't know, you can go to apparelist.com and find all of our podcast episodes. We have a lot of great articles on this topic and many more. We also have a lot of video interviews, things like that. You're all here at Printing United Expo listening to this podcast. You can obviously find more information about the Alliance, printing.org, printingunited.com, all the good stuff. So, Eric, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It was fun.
Great.